Hey there. One of the things I want to talk about today is how martial arts schools like to rip students off and some of the things that you need to watch out for when you are signing up for a martial arts school. How to identify a bad school, although sometimes it's not apparent right away. One of the ways that martial arts schools really get you and really get your money is through the test fees. And if you look at, I don't want to say how most schools operate, but let's say how some schools operate. The test fees usually start out relatively cheap. So when I say a test fee, what I'm referring to is if you start as a white belt and you want to move up to the next belt level, you want to get your yellow belt, let's say, up from white belt, or yellow to green, or whatever. You're moving up in rank, so to speak, and getting closer to black belt. To do that, you usually go to a promotion or a test. And those tests that you do cost money, obviously. And what schools will do is they will usually start out with low test fees initially. So in other words, you pay a membership fee to belong to the school, whether that's a yearly membership or monthly membership fee, whatever it is. You pay a fee to belong to the school to begin with and train there. And then every time a test comes around, you pay a fee to go to the test. And the schools usually, I mean, if it's not a great school, then what they will do, of course, is they will try to pressure you to go to the next test as soon as it becomes available. And again, you can kind of tell a good school from a bad school by whether or not they are pressuring you to test before you are clearly ready to test. In other words, they want you to go to testing, they want you to go to the test so that they can collect that fee and get your money. And when you go to the test, as you move up the ranks, the test fees start getting more and more expensive, right? So they kind of lure you in. The test fees are relatively cheap initially, not something that people are too concerned with, and then they want to start getting you up in the ranks a little bit where the test, like once you're invested, once you are committed to learning and you're sticking around at the school and they know they've got you, at that point they start to hit you with higher and higher test fees because now you're committed. And they pressure you oftentimes to test before you're ready to test. And again, if it's a bad school, you know, they just want you to test because they want the money. And if you look at the school, ask yourself how many students actually fail one of the tests when it comes around. Have you ever seen a student fail, or does every student automatically pass the test no matter how bad they do? Because when one of these tests comes around, usually there's a whole group of students that are testing at the same time. It's not just one person that is testing, it's a whole group of people. So ask yourself, does anybody ever fail a test? Has there ever been somebody that paid their fee to go to the test, didn't perform well, and then was told, you know, sorry, you're not moving up to the next rank, come back again next month or 2 months and try again? Or does everybody simply pass and they're really just, you know, collecting the money that they want from you for the test fee, and everything else is just kind of a song and dance? That's something you need to look for when you join a martial arts school. Again, the test fees. Inquire about how much the test fee is for black belt, because a lot, again, I shouldn't say a lot of schools, some schools will avoid posting the test fee for black belt, and they do that on purpose because you might be paying, say, $50 to test and $50, and then suddenly it goes up to $70, and then $80 and $90 and $100. By the time you get up around, say, red belt, now maybe you're paying $140 to test. You're very close to black belt. And then the last few tests before you get your black belt, now all of a sudden the price rockets up to $400 or something of that nature. Like now it's 4 times more expensive than it was before. Why? Because by that point in time you've been training for 3 or 4 years, you're invested in this, you're very, very close to getting to your goal of black belt. And like I said, now they know they've got you, they know they've got your money. And at that point, they're really, if it's a bad school, they're really going to milk it for everything that it's worth before you can get that black belt. They're really going to make you pay for it. And again, is that a school where you're earning the black belt, or is that a school where you are paying for the black belt? Again, something to keep in mind. So those are things that you have to watch out for with schools. The other thing is oftentimes they will push you to go to tournaments. Again, they're making money at those tournaments. Oftentimes they will push you to purchase merchandise and stuff like that, like buy our school gym bag, buy our school t-shirt, you know, buy this logo and patch on your uniform, all sorts of stuff that they want you to buy. Like, it's always this sales pitch, you know, if it's one of those types of schools again, where they just keep wanting to come at you and get your money. So keep an eye out for stuff like that when you're training. Look for, you know, inquire about the test fees. Look for things like non-compete agreements. So this was another thing that I encountered before, is that some schools will have a non-compete agreement that they make students sign right prior to your black belt test, which basically says you're not going to compete against their school, and you're not going to open up another school within a certain radius of their school and all this nonsense. You can see that as you're getting higher up in the ranks and as you're getting more skilled, you're basically becoming a greater and greater threat to them. So now, if it's a school that is less interested in promoting the martial art and more interested in protecting their own self-interests, then they're going to be one of these schools that tries to bully you and intimidate you and force you into signing that contract. It's usually an ultimatum. It's usually, if you want black belt, you must sign this contract. Otherwise, you cannot test for black belt. So, you know, again, not that most of those contracts are enforceable in any way legally, but you really have to be careful when you start signing contracts with schools. Again, it's another one of those ways where they are really trying to protect their own. They're trying to protect their own interests, and they're always looking for ways to get your money. You really have to watch out what kind of a school that you belong to and what sort of tactics they're using there. So keep an eye out for some of those things, and hopefully that helps you out. Thanks.